So joining us now, Representative Charles Busby. He represents Mississippi House District 111, Chair of the Transportation Committee. Morning, Representative Busby. Thanks for coming on, sir.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
You got it. All right.
From the Pine Belt Studios in downtown Pachuta, Mississippi.
Well, I'm looking at all those trophies hanging on the wall back there behind you. That's quite the collection. You the slayer of all those?
I was the harvester of those, yes.
That's impressive. Looks like a big buck right in the middle of the wall there behind you. I got a couple of those in my neighborhood, right? That's awesome. My son has been out many times and has yet to get one this year. This warm weather, they're just not moving a lot. That's what he said.
It's been quite a temperature roller coaster, hadn't it? And they're not over here in our area, the Pine Belt. They're just starting to move.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. It's been cold last couple of days. That'll get them kicking again. All right, so wanted to have you on to talk about your priorities in the session. What do you see coming up? Let's start first with your committee, the Transportation Committee. What do you see coming down there?
It's not going to be as complicated as most people think it's going to be. We got some extra money that I hope we can. We won't commit ourselves to things within the state to debts that we got to pay over time. I'm hoping we can use some of that extra money to shore up our infrastructure. We've neglected it for quite some time, and we've put some money into it as of late, but we still need some more. So I'm hoping for another round of the Emergency Road and Bridge Program, hoping that we can use some of that money towards that. I'm asking for $350 million to go into that, and I hope we'll be successful with that. Also, Representative Jay McKnight is pushing a program that will make it a little bit easier to get a CDL. Hopefully, we can help with the trucker shortage that we have in the state, even at looking at something that would be a little different for intrastate truckers versus interstate truckers. A program that would be fall under state authority as opposed to federal authority.
Gotcha. Well, it seems like the tasks you have ahead of you, you got a lot of money coming from this ARPA, federal ARPA deal, $1.8 billion, and there are constraints, of course, on how that money can be spent. And so up your wheelhouse, right, in transportation for a good bit of that. How much of that is available, or is it available explicitly for roads and bridges?
Well, it's not available explicitly for roads and bridges, but like I say, we hope to get a chunk of that for roads and bridges.
Okay, I got you.
I don't know how big that's going to be. I talked to Chairman Reed a couple of weeks ago, and he's overwhelmed by the number of friends that he's gotten in the last few months. And I told him that I thought it would be a good idea for us to put a lot of that money in roads and bridges. And he said, well, bring your envelope with you, because he says everyone is leaving these suggestions for how to spend that money in an envelope on his desk.
So you got that, and of course, water and water infrastructure, I think, is another one of those items that qualifies for this spending. So anyhow, I believe it was the lieutenant governor that shared with us that the request they got for the $1.8 billion when he kind of reached out, and I know he specifically contacted the cities and counties and asked them to kind of get their wish list together. Came back with $7 billion to spend 1 point. We're not surprised at that, of course. They came back with a little higher number than is available. But so anyhow, you guys got some work to do there for sure. What else is on your radar that you'd like to address in this upcoming we're in the session?
I listened to your interview with Representative Eubanks. He does such a great job for us. And, the things that are priority for the body are actually my priority this time as well. The redistricting, obviously, is a very big deal. Doing something on the medical marijuana issue. I'm certainly no expert at this. I heard you the other day say, I've never rolled a joint, I've never smoked a joint, I don't know anything about it. I'm in the same situation. I don't really know much about it. However, I don't believe that 74% of the people knew all of the details that were in Initiative 65. So I'm mighty glad that we're getting an opportunity to come out with a program. I wish we had done it earlier and not forced the people's hand on that. But I think bringing forward the work that Chairman Yancey has done on that is something that the people want, and so we need to give it to them. How we spend that money, as we discussed, is also a major issue, and the initiative process. You guys covered that earlier in the show. I won't go into it too much, but I really do like the speaker's idea of amending statute and not amending the Constitution. Perhaps we should have the ability to do both in an initiative process, but perhaps the threshold for passage on a constitutional amendment should be higher than that of regular statute. And, putting it in statute gives us a greater opportunity to tweak whatever it may be. If we lo and behold, do we ever do this? We pass something that doesn't pan out exactly the way we planned. It gives us a better opportunity to tweak that. I think that's a much better idea, and I'm certainly going to follow his lead on that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the average person out there didn't really understand that this thing's going to amend the Constitution. I'm referring to Initiative 65, and I've talked to a lot of people that say, "Well, gosh, I regretted I supported that for that reason only." Once they understood that to be the case, I think though most people in Mississippi want some way for the citizens, if they feel like that their lawmakers are not acting on issues, that they have a mechanism to place something on the ballot and get that done. But that seems better suited for enactment into law and statute as opposed to inclusion in the Constitution. That ought to be reserved for matters that are more akin to what a Constitution is designed to do. Is that accurate in your view, or is that the way you see it as well?
That is the way I see it, yes. And I support the initiative process, but just as you say, I think it needs to be in statute and not part of the Constitution. This is not something new, and it's not necessarily something that is a matter for the legislature, but it's a matter for those of us who are in leadership in the transportation industry across the state. I think we have to be ready. We're so focused on fixing the things that are broken right now that we have very little time to address what things look like in 10, 20, 50 years. And boy, we really need to be doing that. As we know, moving forward, Ford has announced that they will not make internal combustion engines come 2030.
Right.
GM's on the same track. Are we really going to move to these electric vehicles? Well, it certainly appears that we're going to take a large step in that direction. Autonomous vehicles are right here on top of us, which means we have to have an infrastructure that has limited access roadways to support those things. So what we see happening with the electric vehicle push is obviously we're going to see a reduction in the consumption of fossil fuels, which is the total basis for funding our infrastructure at this point. So we're going to have to look at something new.
Yeah, I agree, and it's coming. I know right now a lot of folks are concerned. It just doesn't seem practical, and I agree with them. I've always thought the market ought to sort of dictate the time frame and not government. I get worried when government in Washington says we're just going to stop this, and okay, but we're burning the house down and we don't have a new one to live in. It's kind of the analogy I've used, and it is a concern. But you're right to be thinking about that, and I appreciate that. Before we go here, what about tax reform? That's a big thing to the speaker. Where do you stand on that? Where do you think that goes?
Oh, he and I have been talking about this for years. Representative Lamar and I came up with a program 7 years ago to address tax reform across the state. I'm on board with what the speaker is doing. Been a part of that since the beginning. I would like the whole conversation started when we started talking about a tax swap. swapping the 4% income tax for an increase in fuel tax so that we had specified monies in a special fund going directly for those who were using that asset. And so that's how the whole thing started. So I'm
where we are. Representative Busby, appreciate you so much for joining us, sir. I'm sure I'll see you down there at the Capitol. Look forward to the session, and I'm sure we'll have you back on to talk some more. Happy New Year to you, sir. Take care.
Happy New Year to you. Bye-bye.
We'll be back on midday. Stay with us.